I'm in here on a sunny day in Akhalsiche, Georgia, and I want to inform you of 10 things you need to know before visiting. Because let's face it, not many people know where Georgia is. Not many people know where Georgia is a country. A few people have asked me whether it's in Russia, which, very important to not tell any Georgian that. I'll get onto that point later. But I want to spread some light. I want to share what Georgia is. I've got plenty of other videos on it I want you to check out. But for now, I just want to tell you the 10 things you need to know. Hopefully I convince you to go, and hopefully you remember these points. So let's begin. The first point I want to make is that cash is king in Georgia. At most small stores, at most cafes, at most restaurants, most hostels, most hotels, you will want to pay in cash. If you want to pay in card, most of the bigger stores will have them, most of the bigger hostels, most of the bigger restaurants. However, you want to pay in cash most of the time. You want to have a lot of cash on hand. Either the local transport, the Matshukas, which I'll tell you about later on, they only take cash, and you'll want to have a lot of small change for that as well. Now, you can pay by card and you can set up your own bank account. Tbilisi Bank, all you need is a passport, a phone number, and a small fee to set up the bank account. And you can pay by card and you will not get withdrawal fees, you will not get charged for fees. However, you will have the 100 lari note, 50, 20, 10, and 5 lari note. Then you'll have the 50, 20, 10, 5 tetri coin, which is cents. With the 100 lari note, with the 50 lari note, it is often very hard to break them. Most hostels, most restaurants, they will not want to give you change for 100 lari. If you're at a small market, a small store, just forget about it. They're not going to give you change. So often you want to keep your notes relatively small, but it is always good to have a lot of them because you will burn through it rather quick with all these small purchases you're making. On to the next point, that in Georgia, tipping is not expected, however, it is appreciated. What you can expect, however, is a 10% tax at the end of every order from most orders from restaurants and cafes. How it will work is you will not know the price until you get your bill. They will add it onto the bottom and you will have your new total. Often it is not very much, as Georgia is very cheap, so the 10% will be even less. However, if you're with a group of friends, everybody chips in, it should be no issue. You can also expect in some restaurants and cafes a service fee. It is usually between 5 and 10%, and that will be in place of tipping. Mind you, you definitely should tip if you think the service is good, because they earn very low wages here, and chances are if you're watching this as a tourist, you will have some spare change that they will appreciate a lot more than you would. Get everyone together, throw all your spare change in the middle and give that as a tip. Maybe give them a big note and let everyone chip in. It is very polite and it means a lot more to them than it does to you if you do give them a tip. Moving on to the next point. Now, I don't like talking about this one, but it is very important, and that is with getting ripped off. In Georgia, chances are you will get ripped off as you are seen as a target. I'll begin getting ripped off at the restaurant and cafe level. Often, at the end of an order, when you get your bill, you will not receive a receipt with every order and every price. You receive a small receipt with a single number on it. Now, you want to check your order. You want to go through everything, you want to add it all up, and you want to compare it to the price, because there have been instances where we have been attempted to rip off. It was in Chiatura, we were at a small cafe, and they charged us 8 lari more, which nothing on the menu costed 8 lari. So you want to make sure you are checking it. Further down, obviously, taxis. They will try to rip you off, and they can get pretty ridiculous at some point. I'd recovered from food poisoning. I just arrived in Tbilisi. It was 6 in the morning. I was tired and I knew I was ready to get ripped off. I walked up to a taxi. Stupid of me. I told him where I wanted to go and I just got in. I didn't ask the price. I didn't ask anything. Now, I was expecting this taxi ride to be between 5 and 10 lari, 15 if he was trying to rip me off. But, I knew it wasn't going to be too expensive. So we stop. I pull out my calculator for him and I ask him the price. He puts in a 5 and then he adds a 0. Nothing in Georgia costs 50 lari, especially not a taxi ride like that. It was ridiculous. These taxi drivers will have the audacity to charge you something like that. Of course I fought it. I was still recovering, I was still tired, so I just told him 20 lari. He acted like I was trying to rip him off, crumble his business. I knew 20 lari was an amazing, amazing price for him, and he took it. I knew he would. I didn't budge, and he took it. However, these taxi drivers, you need to be smart. At a hairdresser, I got charged 25 lari. That is not a normal price. You want to always make sure you check the price before you use their service. And moving down to Matshukas. Now, Matshukas I will explain later in the video, but they are the local transport between the city and between cities. In my experience, they will tend not to rip you off. However, once you get in the Matshuka, you pay at the end. You can ask someone on the Matshuka and they will tell you how much they are paying. In every single time I have asked, I have always been told the correct amount. Often, you can trust them. In my experience, I have always been able to trust them. I now want to cover the languages spoken in Georgia. First of all, they speak Georgian, and the writing is something else. It will take you a long time to learn it. They have a few sounds. For example, they have k, they have ch, and then they have kr, or something like that. I'm sure I butchered it. You are not expected to learn Georgian, but if you do, they will appreciate it a lot. However, almost everybody here speaks Russian to the point of fluency. I know the most basic bit of Russian, and I have been able to get around by that. The younger people tend to speak poor English, yet still able to communicate. So if you touch up on your Russian, you should be right. If you touch up on your Georgian, you're extremely impressive. But with your English, often somebody knows the bare basics of English to get around. However, I do recommend you learn some Georgian words. I do recommend you learn some Russian words. And I do recommend you give it your best go to be as easy to communicate with as possible. Now, a quick and easy one here is the few Georgian words you want to learn. First one, hello, gamarjoba. I'll write it down, and that is hello. It's friendly. Everybody should know it. The next one, nakvamdis. Goodbye. I'll write it there, and I'll also write in Georgian. And then the third one, gamarjos, which is cheers. This is a quick point. I also know lemazits velevi gakvis. You have beautiful eyes. I know gakvia, ragvia, something similar to that. I always forget what is your name. And then shomi sachelia, which is my name is. Few Georgian words, I'll write them all down as I spoke them. I butchered the last few most likely, but as long as you memorize those, which should be fairly easy, you should get a lot more smiles and the people should be a lot more receptive to when you try to talk to them. I mentioned Russians earlier, and now let me elaborate. You do not call a Georgian a Russian. The Georgians and the Russians do not get along politically. The Russians have got claims on South Ossetia and Abkhazia, which are Georgian territories, and allegedly they have been moving in slowly, village by village. So to call a Georgian a Russian is a firing insult. However, the people do not hate the people. Russians often come to Georgia for tourism. I met plenty of Russians, and the Georgians that are receptive to them, they do not hate them. They hate the government, and they hate the policies. So be very sensitive about that topic. Most of them will be very happy to discuss it with you. They want you to learn. They want to help their country. They feel they are under attack. And as far as I know, they might be from what I have heard. So be sensitive. Be careful. Only bring it up if you genuinely want to learn. And by God, do not call them Russians. I want to bring up an important one to me, which focuses on the environment. In Georgia, they use lots and lots of plastic. You go to a grocery store, and no matter what you order, they'll want to put in a plastic bag. I have ordered a single 60-cent pack of instant noodles, and they have wanted to put in a plastic bag. You walk on the street and you'll see little plastic bags drifting everywhere. I like to pick it up, put in the bin, because it is honestly terrible. You will have to pay for plastic bags, but it is very easy to decline them. You simply say no thank you. They won't put a plastic bag. If you've got such few objects, it really is important. You just carry them with you. You bring your own backpack, but it is very, very important that you try limit the plastic bags you take, because they will give you lots and you will see lots of them. Earlier I mentioned the Matshuka. Let me elaborate. The Matshuka is a minibus and minivan that will take you around the city and around the country. Very cheap, very uncomfortable. First, I'll explain how the payment works. You will be able to ask anybody on the Matshuka, the driver, how much it will cost, and they will almost always be honest. In my experience, they have always been honest. You simply get on, you wait till you get off, you give the driver your money as you step off the Matshuka. Some of the larger stations, in my experience, they have had ticket booths where you can walk up, purchase a ticket, you will not get ripped off there, and then give it to the driver. This way, you are guaranteed a spot. It will not leave without you, as provided you're on time, mind you, provided you're on time. But paying the Matshukas, very easy. Make sure you try to give as close to the exact amount of change as possible. Do not try breaking any big notes unless you are paying a big amount of cash. Onwards to when they leave. I find it very hard to get information about the timetable of the Matshuka, especially in smaller spots. On the internet, I've found it quite reliable, and quite often in touristy spots, I've been able to get information. However, wherever you're staying, you got to ask the staff, you got to ask fellow travelers, and at bigger stations, they will have a timetable as well, which is a godsend. Otherwise, your best bet is going to the Matshuka station and just asking around what time they leave. Often you will have trouble because they speak Russian, speak very poor English. If you speak Russian or Georgian, you're fine. Otherwise, you want to make sure that you have the correct amount of change and you're arriving on time, because most often they will leave when they're full. Do not worry though, when I say they leave when they're full, I don't mean when all the seats are taken, I mean when they can physically not fit any more people on it, because these things get full. I promise you they get full. You are shoulder to shoulder on an hour-and-a-half bus ride. They cram everybody in. Just as you think they can't fit any more people on, they squeeze 3 more people in because they make money per person. So you want to make sure that you are comfortable, because you will get uncomfortable. Also important, you want to stand up for old ladies, old men. They have it harder than you. You are more fit than them. It is customary that you give them your seat. Nobody will hesitate. You should not hesitate either. But that explains the Matshukas. It is a very Georgian experience. Make sure I'm sure you will try them and you will understand what I'm talking about. But it is a very Georgian, very rough, very fun experience. For number 9, relatively quick one, I want to explain what you visit Georgia for. 2 main points: Georgia invented wine and Georgia is a mountain range. I'll let you guess. I'm going to tell you, Georgia is good for hiking and it is good for wine. Georgian wine tastes very distinct. You either love it or you hate it, I found with a lot of people. However, get your hiking boots, head east for the wine region, and you will enjoy it yourself a lot. Beautiful views along mountain tops with carved valleys by the water. It is insane. We are moving towards autumn. I'm already seeing footage of the red and yellow autumn trees. It is gorgeous. With the wine as well, make sure you try out the homemade wine you will often come across. Most hostels, most restaurants will have their own homemade wine. They will make it extremely cheap. I myself am not too much of a fan. It tends to be more white wine than red wine, which I lean towards the red wine. However, for the experience, definitely try it. Cheap wine, it'll hit you fast, and it is alright. On topic of alcohol, they also have a drink called chacha, which I am convinced is pure petrol because of how insanely strong it is. I don't know what percent it is. I doubt the people who sell it to you know what percent it is. But a lot of restaurants, a lot of hostels, along with the wine, will have 500 ml, 1 litre bottle of chacha. It is the strongest spirit I have ever had. I was drinking it with Serbians and with Polish, and even those two hesitated. You've got to try it. I'm hoping to bring some back as a souvenir because it is insane. It burns your chest. On to the last point is the food. I'll give you a quick rundown of Georgian food. Along the street there will be fast food shacks, and in these you'll often get bread snacks. There will be a lari, between 3 lari. You'll get bread, you'll get mini pizzas, you'll get mini rolls. Quite cheap, quite tasty. On top of that, bread is quite big in Georgia. At restaurants, you'll find a lot of the food is quite greasy, a lot of stews. I was at a restaurant, I ordered an ojakuri, which is just beef and potatoes, and it was literally dripping on my shorts because of how heavy the grease was. So you want to watch out for the grease. You want to try drain the grease in most of the time. However, they do have beautiful stews, beautiful meats. With the vegetables, tomato and cucumber salad is the most common you will find. They do salads, not very good, mind you. And the fruit, you'll find pomegranates, you'll find peaches. Very, very good. That's a quick rundown of the food. You'll find very basic food, most of the same food at most restaurants. However, it is tasty, it is cheap, I recommend it. And for 10 things you need to know before visiting Georgia, that is all of them, I believe. Once you come to Georgia, you will not regret it. It is super cheap, super friendly once you get to know them, and lots to explore. So I hope you come eventually, and I hope these come in useful. I want you to check out the other videos I have of Georgia. I've been through villages, I've been driving across the countryside, all important. How I live on $10 a day as well, check that out. Catch you later.